Hello lovely people, it's Nicola, currently upstairs because it's a beautiful day and I was feeling a little chilly and I didn't want to go down to my sewing room and be chillier still. And the light is good up here. In case you don't know, I live in British Columbia, Canada, where it's probably around freezing at the moment, and we've had quite a few snowflakes on and off the last few days. But the sun is shining and there's blue sky out there, so all is well. I popped this cowl on this morning just to show you it really, but I do like to have a warm neck. Each time I vlog, I'm wanting to show off another shawl or cowl or something that I've made in the past. And this is one that I made a while back, I'm not sure how long ago, but it's called All That Jazz. The All That Jazz cowl, and it's by the Twisted Yarn. I've got my microphone hanging off the bottom of it, so this is going to be weird. But it's an absolutely gorgeous Fair Isle cowl. It was very, very simple to make. It's all charted and yeah, not hard at all. The yarn was Lion Brand Mandala in the Chimera colorway. It used about 2/3 of a cake, and I can't remember how I did the colors now. I'm thinking that for the background of the color, I probably just knitted because it sort of grades from the brown up through the blue. And I think I must have separated out some of the colors in the cowl to use for the contrast stitches in the bands, but I can't remember. But this would actually be really good made with 2 cakes. I have a shawl that I made with 2 cakes of mandala, and the 2 colorways graduate through the cake, and the contrast is just beautiful. So that's another way of doing it. But I think probably what I did with this one is I probably separated all the colors out and then just added in the pops of color as I went. I'm not sure though. So I'm getting started on a new vlog because I've got a few fresh makes to show you. Last time I showed you 6 little drawstring project bags, and I've now made the medium and the large, 6 of each, because I wanted to do a tutorial. And rather than just make a single bag and do a tutorial of that separately, I just thought when I get to the large ones, I'll just film it and then I can sort of cut out all the extraneous stuff where I have to do things 6 times each. So let's see. I'll just quickly show you all the prints I used for the different bags. So the medium ones first, a fox fabric, which is rather cute. For the bases, all denim. The large ones, I do confess, they were not cut from jeans. They were cut from a little bit of yardage that I had, so not upcycled denim, but still denim. So there's the fox and crazy kitties. And the funny thing is, I just realized that my quilt behind me has some of the same fabric in it. This is my hippy dippy Scooby-Doo Pink Panther crazy quilt, which was sort of a non-symmetrical log cabin. And this fabric I used for the borders. And here, oh, here it is. Can you see that? Right here. So my bag matches my quilt, or coordinates at least. Then I used this really cute duckhunt fabric, which I just love. And the caravans. And the yarn bombed trees. Again, I just love that as well. And more camper vans, because who doesn't love camper vans, right? We all love those. And for those, I think for the linings, I just used the same fabrics. Yeah. Yep, used the same fabrics inside as shows on the outside. So for the large bags, I used the same lining on all of them. I had invested in some really cheap quilt cotton at the local fabric store because it was on extra special sale. It was already clearance, but it was another $3 off per meter. And so I used this fabric for all of my linings on the large bags. Kind of fun. And put slip pockets in all of them, of course. And this is the fabric I used for the outside. So I have this one in a sort of pinky red color. And I have it in this beautiful sort of whitish and mauvish colorway. Kind of difficult to describe. And then blue. And then I did a gold dot. And you've probably seen this one before, a French girl in Paris. Both sides are the same with that one. And then you've seen this one before. This is the one with the bikes and the Vespers. Really pretty. Going to be hard to part with that one. So one other little sewing thing. Please excuse the background noises. I'm upstairs, and so family noises unavoidable. This is the other sewing project I have done this week. It is a rather fun denim bag. And I took a little bit of footage of the construction process of this, although I made 3 little sections of film, and the second one had no sound on it because I forgot to put the microphone back on. The trouble with having the little plug-in doohickey on the end of my phone for talking wirelessly to the microphone is that if I have it plugged in and I forget to have the microphone on or even wearing it, there's absolutely no sound going into the phone, and so there's no sound whatsoever. It's not like, you know, it's sort of recording your voice as you're talking, even if it might be low, no voice. So I ended up deleting that middle bit, but I think I've got some usable footage either side of that. I'll know when I put it all into the app to edit it. I had seen a denim bag similar to this idea online, and I cannot remember where I saw it. It may have been on the Denim Upcyclers Facebook group. Someone posted a picture of a denim bag which was patchwork and had buttons in every square. And the one that I saw, the buttons were more of like a metal or some sort of bronzish color. They were quite neutral and low key. Well, you know me, not neutral and low key here. So I started cutting out 3-inch squares of denim from my smaller scraps. And then I joined them all together into a sort of bag shape without the thing at the bottom. So 5 squares across, 4 squares down, and then 3 squares at the bottom. So it left a sort of the corner pieces empty, because of course you're going to cut those out when you box the bottoms anyway. And I put some batting on it, did a very minor amount of quilting because where my seam allowances leak, it's really bulky. So I tried not to sew near there or quilt near there. And then I thought, okay, I'm not sure what the seaming is going to be like with buttons on it. So I put the buttons on it after I seamed the bag pieces together, but before I put the lining in it. And the top stitching was a little dodgy because I was kind of having to squeeze past buttons, but it worked out. I happen to have lime green webbing and lots of green buttons in this stash. I used 40 buttons on this because I put a button in every square, except obviously for the bottom ones. And I also happen to have a very small piece of this lime green cord. And of course, it was just a no-brainer for the fastening for this bag because there's buttons here all over it. So obviously a button loop made total sense. I used a button lining. It was a very neutral. Here I was saying I don't tend to go for neutrals, but I did have this button print which went with the theme, and I'll flip it wrong side out so you can see it better. I used a jeans pocket for the inside pocket, and super exciting, I used one of my newer labels. New design, different font, and the little bag icon that matches my business cards. Thank you, number 3 Sun. So happy with those. Came out brilliant. I used a number 90 universal needle for that because of the heavier fabric, and a heavy thread. I don't usually like heavy thread because I usually end up battling with it in the machine. But I think because I upped the thread, up the thread thickness and up the needle size, it all worked out brilliantly. Didn't have any issues with it at all. Made the straps long enough to be a shoulder bag, but not too long. Came out exactly how I wanted it. I would say that was a resounding success. Not much point me showing you the knitted scarf status right now because I don't think it's really changed much since you last saw it. So let's move on to the granny square pants / trousers. I have made 10, 20, 30, 40, 45 squares so far. This is awesome because it means I only have 11 more to go. Now, I did run out of the black. As I anticipated, I have no black left, and so the last handful will be with the grey, which I don't think the grey is anywhere near as good looking, but it'll work. I will just intersperse them with the rest and it'll be fine. After all, these are just going to be wearing at home wacky pants. Unless I go to a 70s party or some sort of fancy dress event. Another little crafty thing I was playing with this week was fabric flowers. I had the idea that maybe it would be nice to have something for my market stall which just sort of made things look a bit prettier, and it wasn't just bags I was selling, but there would actually be something decorative. I'll insert a little bit of film later of me playing with fabric, hot glue and florist's wire, and we'll see what you think. I'm not sure if they really came out how I wanted them to. I may have to do a bit more internet browsing to get more inspiration and maybe just come up with a different idea because they're not exactly what I wanted. I have just realized, seeing as I'm sitting in my living room, that I have some fabric flowers and some crochet flowers up on my mantelpiece, which I could take along as a little bit of decor for my stall. So even if my other ones don't work out, I have some already. So as one does, I started a new project today. I don't know why, because I've already got a crochet project, but this is a small one and it could be a portable one as long as the pattern isn't too tricky, and it doesn't look like it is. It looks like it's mostly fairly mindless except for just a little bit of a feature on one side. What I'm talking about is the Flyaway Beanie by somebody called Heather Anderson. Let me just check my book again. Heather Anderson, and her blog is The Unraveled Mitten. And it was a pattern I had in my Ravelry queue for a really cute beanie. It has one of those no, here, one of those ribbed bands which you do with single crochet in the back loop, and then you work up to the top, and it has a little feature on the side where it has little pairs of puff stitches all up the side. While my friend was here for tea this morning, because I haven't seen her in a while, and I decided that it would be nice to spend the morning drinking tea with a friend, I crocheted the brim of the beanie. And this is as far as I got. Here's the brim. I've already done all 70 rows and I've joined it into a circle. And now all I need to do is start working upwards. It's done with double crochet in the back loop around, and then each row begins and ends with a puff stitch. So there'll be a row of puff stitches up from here. It's hard to explain, but the puff stitches make a kind of almost like little V's. And I think it'll be really simple. And it'll be a nice little distraction from the other projects I have on the go. And the yarn I'm using is, I'm back to the spindle again. I've mentioned this yarn a few times, Spindle Yarns Essential Basics. I got it for $3.30 a ball on clearance. And it's 100% acrylic. It's really soft. It's nice to work with. And I'm just finishing up a ball that I had already started. And then I still have 2 more after that. So I'm not going to use all that just for a beanie. But you'll have seen my, probably if you've watched my vlogs before, you'll have seen my Sporto sweater in that yarn. And also the Nottawa Saga cowl that I made not long ago, and which I have no idea where it is. I don't know what I did with it. In fact, I don't know what I did with the other coloured one either, the Yerbo cookie or whatever it was called. I've made 3 of these now, and I only know where one is. I'm trying to remember what I've done with the other 2. Which is silly, isn't it? But losing your projects is just weird. I can't remember whether I gave them away or whether I've just stashed them in my sewing room so well that they're probably stuffed in a project bag somewhere just because I wanted to make the project bag look sort of filled out so I could stick it on my shelf. That's probably what's happened to them. Oh, the hazards of being a prolific crafter, right? So I did not check my gauge before I started this, but the beauty of a hat started with a brim like this is you can just stick it on your head and see if it fits. I was going to do a couple of rows fewer because it seemed like it was fitting well, and then I thought, no, I'll just go with the pattern and do the 70 rows because otherwise it'll mess around with how many row stitches I have along here. So we'll just stick with that. I'm not sure if I'm going to get much sewing done today. I'm not feeling particularly inspired to start something new right now. And tomorrow I will be pretty tied up with Mr. Stitches because he now has an appointment with the oral surgeon, the one who took his wisdom tooth out of the roof of his mouth back at the beginning of January. I think because the surgery was done and then shortly after that he started this chemo and radiation, I don't think that hole in his mouth ever really healed properly because apparently the hole is still there and they think there's probably an infection there. So tomorrow he has to make sure he does not eat for 8 hours before his appointment. I have to drive him there because if they knock him out, he'll need driving home. So he's rescheduled his last radiation, last one. If he finished after that one, he's rescheduled that for the morning. It was originally at 4 o'clock, so he's going to be going to his radiation in the morning. Lunchtime will be his check with the oral surgeon. They might have to do something. I don't know if they have to like maybe add more stitches to it or what. Hopefully maybe give him a course of antibiotics. I'll drive him home again. And then that'll be it. I'm hoping that'll be it. And it'll just be time to rest, recuperate, get over all the effects of the treatment they've been giving him. Apparently it can take a while. Oh, my legs are going to sleep here. It can take a while. Like the first couple of weeks after they finish treatment can be just as bad, if not worse, as the actual period of treatment. And it can take months to get back to feeling right again. So just going to have to take it one day at a time, of course, and see how it all goes. I laid all my squares out on the floor the other day. Don't they look pretty? I saw an idea in a group on Facebook, I think it was, for a denim bag that was made from squares. And in each square, someone has sewn a button. So today I cut a bunch of 3-inch squares. Excuse my wire, I'm charging my phone at the same time as I'm doing this. I cut squares in different colours of denim. The plan is to have it 5 by 4 squares and then 3 along the bottom for the boxed bottom. Not sure how this is going to look yet. They'll end up being about 2.5-inch squares by the time they're sewn. I've got this new piece of fabric which just happens to be printed with buttons. It doesn't really match the green theme, but it's neutral. It'll work. I have a pocket that I think I want to put on the inside. And I have green webbing for the handles. And I have this tiny bit of green cord, which happens to match the webbing really well, which I can use as a button loop. So here's the plan. These are all the green buttons I pulled out of my stash to go on here. And one of the buttons will be up here, and the loop will come from the other side and loop around that button. So that will be the closure for the bag. I won't put buttons here and here because I'm going to sew my handles here. Probably. I'm just having second thoughts about that and maybe thinking of putting the webbing into the seam. The one that I saw, the handles were denim and were sewn on the outside. You know what? I think it would be neater to have the handles on the inside. Sandwich them between the lining and the outer, which means I need to pick 4 more buttons if I've got them. This is what I keep my button stash in. And I have a lot of green buttons, but a lot of them are really tiny. It's so satisfying, isn't it, running your hands through buttons? What a lovely feeling that is. So I'm going to put the phone down now, and I am going to rummage for 4 more buttons to go with the rest of them. Back and the front are ready, pieced, quilted a little bit. I try to avoid the worst of the bulk. Basted around the outside, trimmed, thin poly batting on the back. 2 pieces of lining cut a little bit big. Haven't boxed the bottoms yet. And I've got the pocket pinned in place. And now it's time to call it quits for the evening. And here we go. The finished bag. A lot of random buttons. Love the way it looks. Button loop worked great. Of course, I put a button I really liked on the front there because that's going to be a focus. Oh, there's my Nottawa Saga cowl and crocheted matching beanie that was just making it look a bit plumped out. Denim pocket, button lining. Love it. Even got the stitching right on the label. Just filming my outro right here on the deck because The last rays of sun are going to be disappearing soon behind the cloud. It's pretty cool out here, but it's lovely to be outside in the fresh air. But I haven't been for a walk today, at least not yet. Still little patches of snow on the lawn in the places where it stays in shade. So thanks very much for watching. Trying to keep it a bit shorter today. Love to have your comments. Always try and reply to them. And I'll see you again next time.